What a day. I guess to close the formal proceedings, just acknowledge again that I'm situated on Whadjuk Noongar land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. There's a lot to take away and to think on, I think, from the range of presentations that we've had. In terms of key themes that have come up, we started off looking at the role of the charity sector as against government, and thinking about the unique role that charities might play in adopting counter-majoritarian trends or approaches. And that has really sort of tied in very neatly to much of the discussion about advocacy later on and the role that charities might play in that space. That was a key theme that I think recurred in a number of the series of presentations. We also looked at the way that charity lawyers should think about dealing with risk to achieve innovation. And I like the fact that finally a presentation where lawyers and risk are being dealt with in a positive fashion. And we're talking about the way that lawyers can be creative in dealing with risk. So it's so nice to hear that sort of characterisation of lawyers within organisations. Then we looked at the way in which charity law or tax might affect economic activities in different spaces, whether that be Indigenous economic activities or some limits on uses that particular charity property might be put to under land tax regimes, for instance. And then finally, we've had a couple of sessions looking at regulation and charities, whether that be governance standards, whether that be the settings that apply to universities, either in terms of changing restrictions on gifts that they've received or the broader setting that Professor Mary Sinji was talking about in her presentation. And I think it was just quite interesting for us to think about the unintended consequences that some of those regulatory settings can have. If we look at large university or universities as examples of large organisations, that's sort of one classic example of some of the consequences that we might not want to flow from those regulatory settings that we have. So a number of key themes that have raised really important questions about the interaction between charities and the state. I'd just like to thank all of our speakers for raising those themes with us today, particularly our keynote speakers, Assistant Commissioner Anna Longley from the ACNC, and also Jamie Lowe, the CEO of the National Native Title Council. We couldn't do this without you, obviously. I'd also like to thank Amy Johans for taking all of the changes from an in-person to an online conference in her stride and supporting plans to bring together another successful conference this year. My fellow members of the conference organising committee, Matthew Harding, Sari Baird, Sue Barker, and also the board of CLANZ as well for putting much work in preparing the conference. To Chapman Tripp and Parry Fields in New Zealand for helping to host people who are lucky enough there to meet in person for the conference. And then finally, a couple of reminders. We have the ACNC Regulators Day tomorrow. We're all very much looking forward to continuing the collaboration with the ACNC on these important matters, and I encourage you all to attend that day and to participate in the discussions there. And then finally, we have the CLANZ AGM, which is, just remind people, it's on a separate Zoom link. So after we finish up, we'll have to just click on that separate Zoom link to go to the AGM for the Charity Law Association. At that, there'll be some material contributions that are being recognised. I'll just briefly flag them now, but we'll go into more detail afterwards. After a number of years of leading the association as chair, Matthew Harding will be retiring as chair of CLAN, so we'll be acknowledging that at the AGM. Amy, who's provided dedicated administrative assistance for many years as well, will be transitioning out of her role as administrator. So we'll talk about that also. And then Anne Robinson, who helped found CLANZ and has stewarded the association for so many years, will be stepping down from the board. So there are a number of people who've provided material contributions over many years to CLANZ who will be recognising at the AGM. So I'd like to draw the conference to a close there, to thank you all and to invite members of CLANZ to log off and sign on to the AGM. Thank you.